Man, this management surprises me every day. Every single day that the summer transfer Mercato goes on, just every single time I look at my phone, I look at these reports, and I'm just shocked with the amount of incompetence shown by this management. Starting off with the Rinders sale, right? Number one, you're talking about a player that I was saying in the season preview, right, for last season. I said that Rinders was going to be our best player, and he 1,000,000% was. I don't think a single Milan player came close to the performances that Rinder was showing week in and week out. And you had Moncada come out on live television saying that Reinders is going to stay. He's not going anywhere. We will not sell Reinders, right? So we're like, okay, good. Done deal. Then you have Forlani saying, oh, we don't have to sell any top quality players and, we don't have to make any big sales. Okay, great, fine. How dumb were we to believe these clowns, right? And literally, what, maybe 3 weeks after Forlani was saying that, or 2 weeks after, Manchester City submits a bid for not 80 million, not 90 million, 55 million plus add-ons, And Reinders is a Manchester City player. And I was just so upset with this sale. And I seen him in the Manchester City shirt. And I was just like, we let a player like Reinders go for peanuts. That is peanuts for Manchester City, by the way. 55 million plus add-ons. They got away with daylight robbery in Milan. And the thing is, I'm not mad at Reinders because here's the thing. He came out and said that, now I'm able to compete at the highest level in football. That tells me, and I'm just paraphrasing, that tells me that Milan is now a stepping stone for players to get to a destination. Milan is supposed to be the destination. Milan is supposed to be the team that players want to come to stay for their career, to fight for trophies and to be ambitious. And this management has turned AC Milan into Borussia Dortmund, and for players to just develop and move on to bigger and better things. And look, I don't know if this is a news flash for any of you guys, but Milan is not Borussia Dortmund. Milan is the best club in Italy, the most successful clubs, one of the most successful clubs of all time. And this management has turned us into a joke, into mediocrity. And with this Reinders sale, kind of tells me all I need to know, because instead of the owner shelling in money himself to kind of build this team, we rely on selling our best guys to reinforce the team. And that's just not how football works, right? And with a player like Reinders, you're supposed to build off of him. So the fact that he's gone, right? He's doing bigger and better things at Manchester City. I told all my friends that he will absolutely walk into this Manchester City midfield and be the best midfielder on that club and probably in that league. And I'm not even exaggerating, especially with a coach like Pep Guardiola, who we know how he develops talent. Reinders is for sure going to be one of Pep's favorite players to work with. So Reinders, good luck to you, my friend. And just this management just continues to surprise me with how stupid they are day by day. But another sale that, we're going to talk about is Theo Hernandez. And this Theo Hernandez one, I think, hurts more on the emotional side rather than kind of the football quality of it. Because for me, at least, from a personal fan perspective, right, the first time I went to the San Siro, the first goal that was scored that I seen was from Theo Hernandez, and it was versus Atalanta, right, that 2-0. It was the header, right, that Giroud had back, and Theo Hernandez hit it first time on the volley. And I know it counted as an own goal, but I'm counting it as a Theo Hernandez goal because that's how I remember it and that's how I view it. So this hurts more on the emotional side of things, but let's be honest, guys. The writing was on the wall. The writing was on the wall for maybe the past 2 seasons because of just how poor Theo's performances have been game in and game out. And look, there's maybe one game that you can point to this season where Theo actually played good, and that was the Supercoppa versus Inter, right? That final. So it really sucks that a player of Theo's ability, right, where there was so much promise and optimism from a player like him, and this was a guy that Maldini handpicked to be, kind of like his heir, I guess you could say. Theo Hernandez was probably the best left back that Milan had since Maldini retired, right? You're looking at guys like Ricardo Rodriguez, Emmanuelson, Antonelli, and I don't even know who else. Maybe like Bocchetti or something. I don't even know. But regardless of the fact is, I think that point still remains true that Teo Hernandez was the best left back since Maldini. And I think, you're looking at a guy like Teo, and again, the writing was on the wall, to be honest. And I think, when you have a year left on his contract, I think more than definitely he would have ran out his contract and then go for free. So I do credit this management for kind of getting that deal done to Al Hilal for around 25 million plus bonuses. So we're looking at maybe 30 million in total, which isn't bad, to be completely honest, but I think the writing was on the wall. Just kind of sucks that Teo Hernandez had a lot of history with us, guys. 6 years, that's a long time for a player to stay at Milan. And, he won some trophies with us, had a lot of great memories. And I think the best thing that I could say is, Teo, tip my hat to you and go get your money. Go get your money in Saudi. So it's a shame, but look, football is a business about results. And the truth of the reality is that Teo just couldn't give us any more, to be honest. So now I think the $1 million question is, who's the management going to bring in to replace a player like Teo Hernandez? So some big boots to fill for this management. So a sale that I think kind of hurts on the emotional side of things, and I think on the quality side of things, is Francesco Kamada. Kamada is on the verge of joining Lecce with a loan with an option to buy. And if the deal goes through, Milan will retain a buyback clause. And this just really pisses me off because there's this whole emphasis about, Kamada is going to have a pathway to the first team and he's going to develop with the club and everything like this. And right with the Futuro team being an absolute disaster, getting relegated to Serie D, which is going to be really hard to get promoted back, because if you look at any of these Serie D matches, just the quality of the pitch is awful. The quality of football is awful. So it's like the fact is that this Futuro team is going to have to work very hard to get promoted back to Serie C. So the fact is that Kamada is going to a team like Lecce, who, number one, was fighting relegation last season, and number two, scored the least amount of goals in Serie A last season, 27 goals. That is awful, right? For a player like Kamada to even develop in this team. And maybe this is going to be a gateway for us to get Kristovic, right? The Lecce striker who, to be fair, had a good season, but he gives Piontek vibes, which I don't particularly like, because I'd much rather have Kamada stay in the team and develop with us, right? One game a week, right? Where you give Kamada maybe 20 minutes every game, right? And if he does overperform, then he could most definitely start. And look, you're looking at elite clubs like Barcelona, who put their faith in a guy like Lamine Yamal, who is now a bona fide world-class player, no doubt about it. And then you have Real Madrid, this Club World Cup. They throw in Gonzalez, right? Who no one even heard of, youth team player, right? Came from La Fabrica. And now he's scoring goals for Real Madrid in the Club World Cup. So it's like the fact is that elite level clubs are putting their faith in youngsters. In Milan, playing one game a week can't even give Francesco Kamada the light of day to even play a match. Playing one game a week, mind you. And, we're playing in Coppa Italia, and, we're playing in the playoff, right, to, even play in Coppa Italia to get to the knockout rounds. But regardless of the fact is, it's an absolute disaster how this management is not putting their faith in young players. And I think you can probably even shoehorn Liberali into this conversation as well, because it's like, again, you could easily save so much money in the summer transfer Mercato by putting your faith in these young players and have them be a part of the squad, much rather than just shipping them off to have them play for a low-level club where they're not going to see any improvements going forward. Because this is exactly what happened to Lorenzo Colombo. And now Colombo is just a bum. He's another kind of just Serie A kind of just striker who doesn't really know where his future is going to be at. It's exactly what we did with Cutrone as well. So I hate to say it, but it's like, guys, I can most definitely see Kamada going on that path to what Colombo did, what Cutrone did. And it's a damn shame. It's a damn shame. And the thing is, you can even throw Liberali in that as well, because now Liberali is, close to leaving, or, he's kind of, exploring options elsewhere other than Milan. So it's a damn shame that, you're having elite level clubs put their faith in youngsters and they are performing well, and Milan aren't even going to give Kamada the light of day, who's supposed to be this wonder kid. And, we have the faith, put him in and everything like that. And it's a shame, man, because we haven't seen a player like Kamada come through the youth academy in a very long time. And I don't even think Cutrone could stack up against Kamada, but even Cutrone got a chance at the first team level, and he did pretty decent, right? He was a fan favorite. He played for the badge. He showed grinta and everything like that. And Kamada was kind of showing that, right? In the last kind of tail end of the season, right? Against Monza, he did very well. In the Champions League, every cameo he got, I mean, he scored a goal. It was offside, but, you're looking at that, and that's something that moments in history can, affect a player. And Kamada was so hungry to get that first goal. And I'm sure guys like Leao could have helped and everything like that. And it's a damn shame how this management is treating youth academy players, and especially right, you kind of look at it in a national team perspective, right? For Italy could use a guy like Kamada, right? And the fact is that these Italian clubs are not giving youth players the chance to develop at a top level. They'd much rather just loan them out and see if they do good and just give up on them. And it's a shame. And this Kamada one, yeah, we have a buyback clause, but to me that doesn't do anything for me, to be completely honest. So again, this management just showing how incompetent they are in recruitment and kind of player trust and everything like that. Because I think Kamada could have done a job for us, being maybe the second or third string striker under Santi Jimenez. So I don't know. We'll just have to see how he develops, and it's on the verge of completion. I don't know when, but most likely by the end of the week is probably going to happen. But let's go to player acquisitions, right? The players that we're kind of linked with and everything like that. And the one that I think is 90% done, 95% done is Luka Modric. And this is one that I think is the exact Rinders replacement, right? Very similar profile players, right? Modric is going to give you that leadership role. And I think that kind of emotion kind of aspect of the game, right? Where he's going to, sit down and talk to you and kind of really just be behind you and really back you. And I think that is exactly something that this Milan team needs. And this kind of reminds me of like a Simon Kjaer type signing, where he's going to be that player that I think a lot of other squad players go to for kind of advice and kind of to just have that professionalism about it. It's like a win-lose, because it's like you have Modric offering that aspect of the game, like I mentioned, but then also it's like you kind of have to look at it in the other side of things, right? He's 38 or 39 years old. You're probably going to get a 2-year deal out of Modric, to be honest. And I saw like a report saying that Modric was saying, I only am going to join Milan if we're going to fight for something and if there's a proper, will to win the league. And that's exactly the ambition that Modric is going to bring in to this locker room. And I think that's something that this Milan team has been missing for a very long time. And that's something that I think Maldini brought to this team, but the management totally just said F you to Maldini and let him go. So I'm hoping Modric can really bring that to the table and really help out a lot of these players. And honestly, I think it would be a phenomenal player to have in the midfield, right? Quality-wise, I'll probably pick up a Modric jersey, to be honest. He's a legend, one of the best midfielders of all time, in my opinion. And I mean, just the trophy cabinet, his resume speaks for itself, playing at a top level and probably the best Real Madrid team of all time, right? And he was a huge piece to that puzzle. So Modric, welcome to Milan. I think that deal is definitely over the line. They said they're going to get a here we go after the Club World Cup, after Real Madrid kind of participate in that competition. So midfield partner that could be with Modric is Samuel Richi, and 22 million plus 3 million in add-ons for Torino to come for Samuel Richi. And I think it says the deal's in the advanced final stages of the negotiation, and I think definitely we can see Samuel Richi be in a Milan shirt. And I think this is a W signing. I think if you get a midfield of Modric, Richi, and Fofana, I think that would be a phenomenal midfield trio. I think they complement each other very well. You have like that kind of creative aspect of the midfield. You have like kind of the defense aspect, and I think just the overall ball knowledge, right? Just of that. And you got a mix of experience and youth in that as well. And I think Richi, right, he knows the league well. Playing one game a week, I think will definitely help him a lot, kind of understand what Allegri wants in his midfield. And I think this is going to be a player that's going to be similar to like maybe a Marquisio. I think that's how I kind of see Richi, as like a Marquisio type player. I think, right, he can offer you good defensive games, but also maybe offensively he can offer you something as well. That's just how I see it, in my opinion, to be completely honest. But let me know what you guys think about Samuel Richi. Do you think he's going to be kind of one of those players that is going to, take this midfield by the scruff of the neck, or do you think he's gonna ride passenger, or do you think he's just going to be a great complement to Modric and Fofana? So I want to know what you guys think. But I think another name that I'm very on the fence about is Ardon Jashari. And I don't know a lot about this player, but the offer that's kind of been thrown out is 27 million plus 5 million in bonuses. And to me, this is just way too much for a player that I'm not really familiar with. I know he had a lot of really good games in the Champions League for Club Bruges, but we saw what happens when we buy a player from Club Bruges, right? CDK was probably the perfect example of that. And again, I'm not really familiar with Jashari's game. I don't know what type of midfielder he is. My interpretation is kind of just like a box-to-box type midfielder, maybe a similar build to like a Rinders maybe. But again, I'm just, pulling shit out of my ass, to be honest. So I don't really know a lot about Jashari. And that's kind of what makes me on the fence about this a little bit. But maybe I just am being a shitty fan and just got to do some more research. But I want to know, maybe you guys have a lot more intel on this signing, but I'm kind of just looking at our comments on the Home of Milan post. His highlights are phenomenal. I can't wait. I can't wait to sell him to Arsenal in 2 years for 60 mil. That's a W comment. But, a lot of these comments are just saying like, we've seen this before, hopefully the new coach can get the full potential out of it and everything like that. So I don't know. I'm really apprehensive about this, especially for 35 million. That's a good chunk of change for a player that doesn't really give you a lot of guarantees. So I'm not really optimistic about it, to be completely honest. And the last player that I wanted to cover is Guella Dure, the brother of Desiree Doué from PSG. And again, I think this is just a PR move. I think we're just getting it for the name. I think we can get so many better players than Doué, to be completely honest. We've been linked with Vanderson from Monaco. We've been linked with Cambiasso, who I would love at Milan. That is a player that I would 100% have at the top of my list, to be completely honest. And there's been a couple other players that are kind of escaping my mind. Thiago Santos has been a name that we've been linked with again, and I don't know how concrete that is. I've just been seeing names, but again, Guella Doué doesn't really excite me a lot. Again, I think it's a PR move. I think we're just doing it to just have the name, right? And again, he played for Strasbourg, and I don't know how great Strasbourg was in Liga in last season, but regardless of the fact is, this just isn't a name that really excites me, and I don't think that this is the type of player that we need to go for. I think we need to go for players who understand Serie A, right? Which is exactly why I want a Cambiasso type player, because he knows the league, right? He's been at Juventus the whole time. He's familiar with Allegri, and I think he would definitely complement this team very well, right? I think he's a phenomenal ball-playing fullback. I think he is one of those players that really excites me, especially when I see, him in the news with Milan and everything like that. But with how good Juventus is doing in the Club World Cup, and I mean, a player like Cambiasso, you have to keep him. You know what I mean? So I think it would be very hard for Milan to get a guy like Cambiasso. But look, if we get Guella Dure, and if he, just proves me wrong, then all the better. I want him to prove me wrong. I want him to succeed in a Milan shirt. But I don't know. I'm just being a little pessimistic, especially because of how this management kind of has been running things in these recent kind of weeks and months, with, false promises about, certain players and everything like that. And, there's a lot of uncertainties with Richi, whether or not this deal is going to get over the line. And I'm still, kind of on the fence, because it's like, there was that one report a couple weeks ago that Milan are dropping out. So it's like, we're working on this deal to get Richi since January, but then, it's still not done and over the line. So it's like, I don't know what this management is waiting for, to be honest. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below about kind of how Tada has been operating this this Mercato? What do you guys think about the Rinders sale, the Teo sale, and what do you guys think about that Kamada loan? Because I think that is something that has been on the mind of a lot of fans. So guys, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. It's been Vincenzo, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Ciao ragazzi.